Okay, so welcome to ALCLA Native Plants. I'm Latifa, the co-owner, and Ben Hartney is my partner. He's the other co-owner. So we moved last fall, so 2023, to this location near Carstairs, which is great. So we are on some agricultural land. So this is the nursery itself. So here we have, the plants that are available. So we still have quite a lot of plants. We do sell them until the end of September pretty much. Then whatever is left, we will overwinter. Some plants if we have extras, we might just give them to projects that need extra plants because we don't want to overwinter them too many seasons. But yeah, we have over 150 plant species, so a lot of them have edible medicinal use. That's something that really interests me, like the anise hyssop is good. You can smell them. They smell a little bit like they're not super strong, but you should get a bit of a licorice kind of anisey smell on them. We've got yarrow, wolf willow. Those are looking really good this year. And this is pink monkey flower. So some plants are more rare, and those ones you would really only find in the southwest corner of the province. So that's not something you would easily see. So those are quite unique. And then like the seeds for those kind of came with the company when we took it over in 2019. Or creeping Oregon grape. So that's again kind of southwest area of Alberta, and that's the kind of most eastwards and northwards that species kind of grows, but they do pretty well further north and in gardens and stuff. So they also would produce like an edible fruit. Eventually, it takes time. We have the common tall sunflowers. They are, really big. And so, most of them actually are sold. So so we still hold on to stuff until people pick them up. There's a bit of bee balm. This one smells like oregano or thyme, prairie sage. So these are culturally significant plants for the Niitsitapi or Blackfoot folks. And we definitely want to collaborate and be good treaty partners. So we do grow a lot of culturally significant plants as well. Pretty much all like native plants are in a way, but some have more precedence of use or use more contemporarily than others. Wild mint is a really important plant. We have quite a lot this year, and I love drying wild mint for tea. It's a really nice one. Dogwood, Saskatoon, wild rose, lots of different grasses, goldenrods. Look, this guy's flowering, so cute. That's the slender blue beard tongue, so that's the first year we have that species. And we got the seed from the Edmonton Native Plant Society, or Council, I forget what they call themselves. But milkweeds, these ones have all gone out too. They're all been sold. And then this is another milkweed, but they've already kind of senesced. So senescing just means that like they were treated underground. That doesn't mean that they're dead. So that's something a lot of people need to realize. Plants have their own cycles. Like this is very different than like something you get at the garden center, which those are usually heavily bred. There's limited species. They're domesticated, and they are expected to look really pretty when you buy them usually. But for native plants, that may not be the case. But what you are getting is the nice root. So we use these root trainer containers. They keep the roots from getting root bound. And you can see it's beautiful. You can see how beautiful. And that just holds together like that, So they're not going to see any more growth this year, but next year, if you plant them, you would. So, that's something where we really have to educate people because it's quite different. But then you get a beautiful perennial that's climate adapted. And the great thing about milkweeds is they support monarch butterflies, which is something that we want to do. They were federally listed as endangered in 2023 in Canada. So we have to, wildland is diminishing every year, not increasing. So we do need to think about what do we want to do for the future. So growing native plants is a good way and a great way to incorporate into your food medicine gardens too. Like when people don't know, like plants like columbine, I know they're looking a bit rough, but they're great underneath. I think they did get a bit of drought stress because it's been so hot this year. We did move them all together. But yeah, so we've got the roots. They have a different color root, so it's not as dramatic looking as the milkweed, but they hold together. You can wave them round and they wouldn't fall apart because they're all nicely rooted. But yeah, you can actually eat the leaves when they're young, like a lot of toxic plants, even milkweed. I'm saying that, but do be careful, make sure you know what you're doing. But they can be eaten young before they become toxic. So same with columbines, can do that. More bee balm. So yeah, a bit of drought stress because things needed a lot of water, and we didn't realize right away that they need to be watered every day because it was over plus 30, plus 35 for 10 days. So we had never encountered that. We usually water almost every other day, so that's why we have a little bit of drought stress on some guys this year. Not that you need to know that, but I don't know, I feel bad that why are they brown tips? But they're fine, they're perennial. So you're not planting for now, you're planting for the future. Like it's going to take usually two full seasons for most perennials to really reach a good full size. But some plants like giant wild rye, which is now really rare because of overgrazing and stuff like that. Or there's just some plants are just not tolerant to grazing. So, if you graze a field over and over and over and over again, then you're going to lose plants that reproduce by seed or that are favorites of the cattle because they have no way of regenerating. So a plant like giant wild rye takes 5 years to produce flowers, or something like the wood lily. People love those wood lilies or tiger lilies. Like they used to be all over the prairies. That's the floral emblem of Saskatchewan. They're not really common anymore. And once you have heavy grazing on land like that, or you pick them, or if you plow them under, there's no way of recovering that. And those plants take 5 to 7 years to bloom. So, from seed. So yes, some things will be productive, and like strawberries will spread really quickly in even year 1, the wild strawberries, but others will take more time. So you are thinking about a long-term goal. I really recommend people incorporate a range of different types, like put some annuals and biennials and plants that grow really quickly if you want for immediate show, and then you have your other slower guys that you're more patient with, because you do have to be patient to establish a native plant garden. Depending on what species you put in. We have fireweed. Fireweeds are very common plant, also edible, especially the shoots are good when they're young. We have stinging nettle. We have a lot of nettle this year. They're really good plants for pollinators. So all native plants are good for pollinating insects. Many insects have specific associations with native plants. So there's about 4 or 5 species of butterflies that like to lay their eggs on nettles. So it's great for butterflies, because butterflies and moths, they actually have adapted and evolved to eat certain foods and to be able to overcome the defense compounds of like the plant. So the plant obviously, like nettles, like really stingy. So those caterpillars have learned and evolved to be able to eat them. And so that process takes many years of evolution. So, that's why we need those native plants to be able to support those insects, because they have evolved to overcome those defense compounds. And then you get these beautiful butterflies as a result of growing nettle. Plus, it's a great edible. You could eat the seeds too. They have omega-3 fatty acids in them. So they're still green. So I usually eat them when they're still green. You can try some if you want to try some. They're lovely. I really like nettle. I always have nettle. It's like one of my, it comes up in March, well before a lot of other vegetables. So it's so nice to have. And then there's tons of recipes and full of nutrition and iron and vitamins, minerals. and so forth. So, you know, it's people often like want to get rid of nettle. They don't realize like the value it has and how important it is to have these kind of plants. Yes, they do sting, so you know, don't plant it somewhere where you're going to be running through it all the time. But you know, most people have mild reactions and don't have any problems with nettle. So, or just keep it. You know, you can wear gloves when you're processing it, so you stay safe. So, anyways, I was something else I was going to mention. Oh yeah, just information-wise, like caterpillars, they transfer more energy from plants to other animals than all other herbivores combined. So when we're thinking about how critical, like we're in an, you know, insect apocalypse, we're losing our insects because of pesticides and chemical use and land use changes and loss of native plants. And, you know, so this is something that really we all can do to support life is reestablish those populations that support life that animals here have evolved with for literally tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years. So yeah, these are some June grass, very lovely clump forming grasses. A lot of our grasses don't spread, they're not aggressive. Keep in mind that all the grasses that are planted are all Eurasian introduced species. They are invasive and aggressive and really offer no benefit except that there's part of a cultural phenomenon that we need to have lawns. What a waste of space, in my opinion. I'm not gonna hold back. I think lawns are stupid. Unless it's like a soccer field, I can get it. But you know, why does everyone need one? So ridiculous. This is gumweed, really great medicinal plant. They're biennial. You're not going to get a lot of scent on them, I think, because mainly the flower heads that are really aromatic. Yeah, but a lot of these plants really do have so much use, and it's fun to be creative and think of ways to cook with them. Like I've been cooking more with the carrot family plants, like heart-leaved Alexanders, and they all have different flavors. So if you use like coriander and fennel and caraway, those are all carrot family, and they all have slightly different flavors. And you know, you can really get creative, and they all have nutritional value and medicinal value. So it's like, you know, let food be your medicine, right? So. But you know, you have to like these are not very common anymore. Like these are a species, carrot family in particular, are species that are heavily impacted by grazing because they only reproduce by seed. And so if they're present in a pasture, it's an indication of a healthy pasture. And a lot of pastures have lost them. So it's like we can't go out and pick a whole bunch of them anymore. It's not enough. We have to grow our own patch, be patient, and then we can get them. And they're not easy to grow from seed. I honestly, like that's the thing. Some of these plants are really hard to grow. It can take us multiple years. To get them even to germinate. So it's not, we're not, you know, it's a labor of love. Like we're not making huge profits because we reinvest everything back into what we're doing, and we volunteer a lot of our time just to be able to figure out how to grow some of these plants. So yeah, that's, you know, that's a little bit about our ethos. I'll show you. Do you want to go to the, see some other stuff?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, so that's kind of like, any questions about the nursery? Oh, we didn't see the onions. Might as well just quickly. But several native onions. We have wild chives here, and it's just like the same species as the conventional chives, and nodding onion. So, and again, I mean, I know the tops are not looking as exciting right now, but the roots are absolutely beautiful. And you know, like you can see the bulb, which normally you can see the bulb in there. So they have a bulb, and they often even they'll divide themselves. So when you have these, you can divide them yourselves and then replant them, so you can increase your own population for free before you have a big enough population to harvest. So again, it would take a few years. You're investing in the long term, but a little patience, and then you have something that's always available to support you. That's the onions. So yeah, they're great. So we can walk along. So that's the property out here, and you can see some areas are used for grazing, but that eastern area, the cattle that historically grazed it have been taken off. And we are looking, I mean, there might be some very minimal grazing. Like I said, there's only 2 cows out there. But there might be minimal grazing, but you know, our goal, and I think the goal of a collective organization, is to help restore and repair that area and to Like there's a lot of invasive species now. That's the Rosebud River down there. The river is really low because it has been dammed. The dam is in Didsbury. So damming is another really big issue, not something that we can do anything about here, but just something to be aware of. Like freshwater fish are declining 95% faster than the fossil record, and the biggest impact is damming. And every river except for the Dog Pound Creek is dammed in Alberta. And so the result of someone downstream of a dam is that our river is almost non-existent in the summer. It's so low. The fish can't swim, the fish can't travel. Like, it's really sad. And that area, which could be really, I mean, it is lush, it is still moist, but could be offering so much more, but we can't do that because someone else decided further, not very far from here, 10-minute drive away, 15-minute drive away, that there should be a dam. And so we face the downstream effects of that. We actually do have, this property does have water rights, but I wouldn't use them because how would we do that and take from the river, you know, when it's so low, because of the impact of humans on there. And so there's so many invasive species on the river, and up in, you know, and also up in that eastern area, but still quite a lot of natives. So we're wanting to kind of establish more native and reduce invasives as much as possible. So again, it's a very long-term project, and it's very difficult to do good quality restoration. And we might be creative with it. It's not like we're not stuck to being like, oh, we have to do what was historically here. I'm not opposed to that, but I don't mind if something's 100 kilometers away. Like, we have some really cool cottonwoods and a narrow-leaf poplar, which is a rare poplar species, and we want to plant down in there. So yeah, it's not the balsam poplar that was historically here, but I'm not opposed to, you know, we have an interest in a broad range of species that grow nearby or grow, you know, I say Alberta, but we are more leaning towards what we grow in Blackfoot territory, you know, and which is actually quite a large area. And so, you know, for us, we don't have to, yeah, we're not fixed to having to, like, obviously, I'm not going to put in species that aren't appropriate for this site, but I don't mind putting in more rare species, like rare poplars and stuff like that, or rare willows, or other unique forbs that are not very common that could benefit or do well in this site. So yeah, that's kind of long term, but we'll probably start with the riparian zone because it's the most damaged. As I said, I have some trees I want to put out there, but yeah, there's some little pockets, but you can really see like a shift of species over time. Like, there's way more buckbrush, there's way more aggressive spreading plants that cows don't like to eat, and like there's that heart-leaved Alexanders, that carrot family plant. There's one tiny stand that I found. Probably historically there was a lot of them, so, you know, but not anymore. So we're at a point where, yeah, we can save that one stand, we can help it to survive if we give it space and support it. But you know, if this grazing had continued another 20 years, that could be lost. And there's species that have been lost that we don't know. So I just want to, I could go on and on about it, but it's a really critical issue, this issue. Like, people don't really think about land usage, and most people don't even know the difference between what, they can't see, like, what was here historically. They all looks the same, but I want people to know that it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot in the past 100 years, and things are not the same. And a lot of species are really in trouble and, you know, need more support. So, yeah, and they have, you know, so many of them have use as medicine, as food, and, you know, to support life. So why wouldn't you want to support them? So anyways, it's a big, you know, it's a big part of what we do. And then, yeah, I'll show you the greenhouse and the garden very quickly, where we've been planting a lot of plants for seeds. But here's this nettle came naturally, so they were already here. So yeah, we just let them grow. You can see they're, you know, how big a nettle can be, massive. And that's, you know, they're just there, like, they don't get watered. That's another thing about having native plants in your plantings. They don't need water and irrigation and all these supplemental fertilizers. Like, this beautiful plant is just growing here. They might have got some fertilizer from some droppings or something, but, you know, they're not watered, and they do just fine, and they're quite happy. So it saves a lot of effort, it saves a lot of resources, saves water. Right? If you can have food that needs no input, like, why wouldn't you want to do that? in my opinion. This is our propagation bed. So we only moved in the fall, so they're just starting out. This is our sweetgrass bed. Sweetgrass is really hard to grow and is in a lot of decline in waterways because it's being replaced with invasive grasses. Again, due to human impact. Oh, be careful, there's bees. I hope you're not allergic to, I forgot to tell you about the bees. That's not us, that's someone else, and they have a honey bee operation. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I was distracted and I forgot. They're pretty harmless. Yeah, that should be closed, but because that's not our project, it's kind of gotten out of hand. Then we have there's some Canada anemone bed. Then these are plants that have come out of the greenhouse recently. Baneberry, it's a really nice plant for shade. Like you can plant under a tree. A lot of people ask us, what do I plant under a tree? Because that's usually where they struggle to get plants to do well. So yeah, you can use native plants to grow under trees. And once they're established, you don't need to water them when they're establishing. Once they're established, they don't need any more supplemental water. More plants in the greenhouse. Bearberry, yeah, these ones are tough to grow. These were from cutting, so we did lose a number of them. So it's been 5 years, but we're still trying to figure out the best way to grow them. This is our native iris, the blue iris, and they are very rare, extremely rare in Alberta. There's only 10 sites where they're found. So we're lucky to have some seed, and it's a beautiful, very beautiful iris, blue iris. They like wet spaces, but can grow in a garden quite easily. More, yeah, just different stuff that they've come out of the greenhouse. So once they've been inventoried, they'll be eventually moved to the nursery area and added to the online inventory. We do sell, most people order online, so it's pretty easy, and we do ship. So people, yeah, it's very streamlined. People don't have to come here to get plants. It's loud with the fan. This is the first greenhouse, so it's nearly empty. So we're just keeping things in here to give them a little bit more growth before overwintering, and some of them might be sold too if we can before the end of season, which is end of the month, end of September. These are some ferns. I've been playing with ferns. So these are just the gametophytes. So these parts of the fern, they produce a sperm and egg. So they have not produced the adult fern yet. This is moss. So the gametophytes, it might not be till next year. This is lady fern, so we'll have to overwinter this and see. But these would produce a sperm and an egg. This is the same as the fern plant. It's a different form. It's called the gametophyte fern. And then the sporophyte fern will form when the sperm and egg fuse and make what you think of as a fern. So that's I've been playing with ferns for 5 years. They're not that easy to figure. Like there's some challenges, so still working on it. But yeah, alpine forget-me-not. That's a very popular one. So yeah, but it's easier to see from the photo. So, and we're installing a second greenhouse this fall. It's a bit delayed, so we're just waiting. It should be this Friday. It's coming. So we'll be able to increase our production, especially for spring, because we do. We've just realized that it's better if we can start more in the spring. So that's the greenhouse. This barn is from the late 1800s, and we are using this space. It's stinky because it was full of animals for 100+ years. Almost 150 years, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of stinky, but we're just, using this space. And Ben has done a ton of work to clean it out and make it, like, it smells now, but it smells like way, way better than it before. You couldn't even breathe in here. So yeah, so this is a space that we're using that has been allocated to us in terms of the shared space of this property. So yeah, just stuff, but nothing much to see in here, but just trays and wood and tools and all that stuff. And then that's the future site of the nursery greenhouse. So hopefully next week that will be up. We're just waiting for it to arrive. And Ben, yeah, he's done so much work. He's really very skilled, and he's learned so much. He's very impressive. And then I'll just take you to the garden. So we live in this area here. So we do live on site, which is amazing because we used to commute, which really sucked. Honestly, like, you know, you not living on your farm is really hard. Like if you have any living being, because you don't know, like again, like I said, that those plus 30 weeks, we would have been in so much trouble last year because we needed to be there every single day, and we couldn't do that before. So now that we're here every day, it makes a huge difference. So I'll just show you so this is what we planted. Most of this we planted last fall. And the purpose of this garden is seed collection, but it can be a demonstration garden. It needs to be fenced in to keep animal and livestock out. And then also we have a cat who we keep in because there's dogs that like to eat cats. So yeah, we have a cactus garden. I don't know if they eat cats, but they kill cats anyways. So that was just planted this year. It's just one species of cactus, but every plant came from seed. And so we really prioritize genetic diversity and source identification. So what that means is we know where these seeds came from. And they came from seed, which means that each individual is slightly different. And that means that for restoration purposes, if you wanted to restore an area back to prairie, you wouldn't want everything to be clones, right? Because the ability to adapt to change, the ability to resist disease, and just to be different, right? If you only have a narrow gene pool, what do you get? Inbreeding, disease susceptibility, loss of ability to adapt, right? That's what's happening with some animals that are going endangered, and they're trying to keep them alive. But then, if the population is so small, the sperm can become inviable, because the population is too small. So those are things that happen when you have a narrow gene pool. So we don't want to have a narrow gene pool, right? So the plants we produce, like the ones you saw, they're from seed, most of them. 99% of them. There's a couple, like the sweetgrass, that's hard to grow from seed. But even that is genetically diverse because we divide them from parents that were started from seed. Every plant in that sweetgrass bed was started from seed, and from different sites. So that is a genetically diverse bed. And so when you get plants from us, you're not just getting like one clone and they're all the same, which you typically, not to bad talk other kinds of nurseries, but the conventional horticulture, they're doing the opposite. They're narrowing it as much as possible to get all those cool colors and big flowers and sterile plants, right? That's not sustainable. That's just a huge input and a lot of resources, fertilizers, pesticides, water goes into that for something that's not even going to live and persist. Whereas something like this could persist for thousands of years if we are able to reestablish them healthily. And think about your legacy of thousands of years rather than like one season as an individual, and the impact you can have is so much more. So that's why we prioritize genetically diverse, but it makes it harder because seeds germinate at different times. Plants can behave differently, even though they're the same species. Some can be more susceptible to certain things than others. They're different, right? Just like two cousins are different, right? Like you might be related, but you're a little bit different. And you have different likes, and there's a lot of similarities, but it does make challenges. So yeah, it is more expensive. It's harder for us to produce plants like that, but the benefit for us, because we do it for the greater purpose is more important than just profit for us as a business, then we're happy to do that. You got to check out these gorgeous gentians. Speaking of which, I need to take a photo after because they're so pretty. Look at that guy. So pretty. That's the mountain, or I think we call it mountain gentian, or bog gentian. My poor coltsfoot. This is what they do when it's hot. Every time it's hot, she needs to be more in the shade. So we probably will move her next year. But when it's cool, she perks up. So, this were just started from those little plugs. Like last year, that was a little plug. Look how big she is. I know she's a bit, her sisters here, her sister didn't get big for whatever reason, but, they stay big. And they bloom in like April, so really early. These are suckers from their big poplars. And we've got more. This is that Oregon grape, but you know, they do take a little bit of time. So you got to be patient. It won't be probably another couple years before we get fruits and seeds, but we planted quite a lot of them. And they're evergreen, which is really nice in a wintry place. Behind you is the golden tick seed, and they are a shorter lived plant, but they get really big in one season, as you can see. Tons of flowers, very long bloom time. You see insects are still really enjoying the blooms. I see a lot of like different types of flies on there right now. They are the traditional dye plant for red and orange, one of the traditional dye plants for red and orange for the Nitsitapi Blackfoot people. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, people use them for dyeing still today, like for lots of things. You can dye clothing, you can use them for art, for ink. Instead of getting like plastic ink, you can use native plants. Like, you know, our friend Api Sumaka, William Singer, like he uses raspberry with the kids when he teaches kids. Like they can eat the paint, like, you know, and you think about what are the health impacts of all the chemicals in our environments. And yeah, if we can learn from traditional knowledge, then we can create beautiful things without, you know, exposing ourselves to toxic chemicals. And then these, you can see, this is an evening primrose biennial, how big they get in a single season. And these lovely guys are still flowering. They're night blooming. We really love night blooming plants that support moth pollinators, support bats. But yeah, so they're coming to, you know, like they won't live to next year, but you can see, so you can get this dramatic size very quickly by incorporating biennials. Yeah, we've got a lot. This is another evening primrose family plant, Butte primrose. There's still some flowers blooming, but they've been blooming all summer, but the main bloom time is like from June, July, but still, and they smell so good, so good. I'm really excited about this guy. We don't have any for sale yet. The hoary aster. This is also a shorter lived plant. Look how freaking massive they got. They started as those little plugs 1 year ago. Look how quickly they grew in 1 year. But this plant has been a pollinator magnet, and we have been finding rare, unusual species of caterpillars, and there's so many cool. And we'll just look at all the different insects. Like, look at that huge fat bee fly. There's wasps. There's native bees. They're just loving it. And this plant has a really late bloom time. Like, they'll bloom until the end of the month and even into October. So good. Like, those are the kind of plants you do want to incorporate to support wildlife. I'm trying to see if there's any little caterpillars left. I think most of them have dropped. They were so big. They were as big as like my pinky finger. I think they're all gone. They were so fat. So once the caterpillar reaches a certain size, they drop and fall. And if these little cottony things, some other Lepidoptera, butterfly or moth, put them there. So I'm suspecting her babies, like I opened one up just to see there's like immature larvae inside. So those larvae will probably just overwinter like that. Like it's like a nice cottony little home for them until next year. So we'll see who comes up. So then if they're coming up next year, even though this is a shorter lived plant, we don't want to like disturb that, right? We'll probably leave. You should be not cutting back plants just because they're brown. Like leave them for wildlife for a while. Ooh, there they are. There's one. Look at this guy. Last one left. We had so many of them. We had like 100 of them. And they don't even have a common name. Like they're not even that common. And as far as I can tell, they've never been seen this far west. So they basically, like, the moths flew from Drumheller, like 100 kilometers to get to this plant. It seems like it. It's pretty amazing. And William Singer was like, yeah, it looks like beadwork, which is so cool. Oh, yeah, we have some of his yampas in here, the wild carrots. I did see him, and he gave me some seed and a couple plants, so we'll see if we can get them to survive. They're over there. And there was another really fatty, but not colorful. Like this is another species of caterpillar. So I don't know. It's probably a moth. Like those are harder to identify, so I don't know because they're green and nothing's showy. But showy caterpillars like that are so easy to identify. I mean, yeah, like you can use it. I use the iNaturalist app, and there's other apps you can use. And Google Lens. Like I'll search Google Lens. And you can find pictures that have the same patterning. And if there's only one species that comes up, you can be sure that that's the right species. Common tall sunflower is coming to an end, but they're like sunchokes. You can eat the roots. So even though they spread a lot, eventually they do spread. That's this one season. Like, look how quickly they have come in. They were from pots though, but yeah, they're big. There's a lot here. We have over 60 species, probably like 70 now or 80 species. So, and you can see, look, here's this rubber rabbit brush. And this one we haven't been able to get to germinate, but we have some here in the garden. But look at the little bumblebees, just so happy. You know, and look, that's a little tiny hoverfly. And yeah, you can really like make a huge impact to so many small lives by planting native species. And it's something that we see all the time. Like, we see so many cool plants. So this is a shade garden that we put in under trees. Well, part of it too, we were thinking like as a successional thing, like as these spruce are pretty big and old, so they will start to come out, like need to come out over time, so there can be species to replace them. But yeah, so this is a shade garden. There's a lot in here. There's hazelnuts. We even have limber pine. It's not the perfect place for limber pine, but it's just, again, like over time as the others phase out, we'll have those ready to be incorporated. Red columbine. We have a lot of honeysuckles, beaked hazelnut, and some bedstraw, like sweet scented bedstraw. So yeah, there's quite a lot in here. And so yeah, we'll see how there's a blue clematis. They're just small. They were only recently planted, so there's not really too much to see. And then this area here was just like, they were already native plants that were in the lawn. So rather than like cutting the lawn, like the lawn has been recently cut, but it didn't cut those native plants. So Ben went around them and he hand pulled around the plants. So yeah, rather than just like, we don't make it easy on ourselves. We're not trying to cut any corners. Like, we're so happy that any native species has persisted. So we try to support them. We realize how precious they are, how valuable. Historically, they have not been viewed as valuable, at least not by with Western mindset, really. They've just been eradicated and viewed as competition with crops. So yeah, anyways, that's this garden. So I think that's it. There's not much more to show at this point. I think we can probably. Also, I wanted to mention, yeah, that's it for my end, I think. Should I say? Thank you.